everyone, my name is Siti Norma from Pamulang University, and today I will give a presentation about language and thought for my midterm assignment. Classical theorists like Plato and Aristotle argued that the categories of thought determine the categories of language. According to Plato, thought and language were identical. According to Aristotle, mankind could not have the same language because all don't think the same. According to G.B. Watson, thought is language subvocal speech. The study of how language influences thought has a long history in a variety of fields. There are two bodies of thought forming around this debate. One body of thought stems from linguistics and is known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. And on the opposing side, there are language of thought theories, or LOTH, which believe that public language is an essential to private thought. To the possibility remains that private thought, when infused with inessential language, diverges in predilection, emphasis, tone, or subsequent recollection. LOTH theories address the debate of whether thought is possible without language, to the question of whether language involved for thought. These ideas are difficult to study because it proves challenging to parse the effects of culture versus thought versus language in all academic fields. The beginning of the end of Watson's theories of language and thought come in 1947, when medical doctors trapped a healthy 34-year-old research volunteer to a journey in Salt Lake City and inject him with curare. Curare paralyzes the muscle of the body completely, including the throat muscle that Watson believed were critical for throat processes. About 4 minutes after the curare injection was complete, the research volunteer lost the ability to speak because his throat muscle could no longer move. Despite the loss of speech, the volunteer could still perceive everything that was happening around him. After he recovered, the volunteer reported that he was clear as a bell during the entire time he was paralyzed. In addition, during the time that he could not speak, the volunteer answered yes or no question by moving muscles that had not yet become completely paralyzed, including his eyebrow and eyelid muscle. His answers to this question were entirely correct. Based on the event during the experiment, and on the volunteer's subsequent description of his experience, Smith's research team concluded that the activating the speech muscle had no effect on the volunteer's ability to perceive, think about, or remember the event that occurred during total muscular paralysis. The current results are fatal for Watson's idea that thinking and moving the throat muscle, whether overtly or covertly, are the same thing, but he could still be right if talking to yourself is the same thing as thinking. But this alternative hypothesis also has major problems. First, individuals who have lost the ability to speak or understand language are nonetheless able to think. In this case, the problem is not paralyzed muscle, it is the inability to produce the inner monologue at all. One such case involved a French-speaking monk, Brother John, who experienced periodic failures to speak or to understand spoken or written language as the result of epileptic seizures. Brother John's epileptic episodes could last as little as a few minutes or as long as several hours. During the worst part of the episodes, Brother John was incapable of speaking coherently and often of reading as well, but that did not destroy his ability to think. Subjectively, Brother John reported that his ability to produce inner monologues was also incapacitated during his seizures. Cases such as Brother John show that you don't need language in order to think. Other cases show that you don't need to think particularly well in order to use language. Two such examples are found in individuals with Williams syndrome and Christopher, an autistic person who has a remarkable capacity to learn foreign language. What is Williams syndrome? Williams syndrome is a disorder that results in abnormal brain structure and functioning as well as mental retardation. Several mental limitations don't cripple the ability to use language among people who have Williams syndrome. Christopher is the pseudonym for an autistic person who, despite being unable to look after himself, has managed to learn 13 foreign languages. However, as with Williams syndrome, Christopher's language abilities are not entirely normal. These examples show that you don't need language to think and that you can have sophisticated language skills despite poor functioning in non-language taught domains. This pattern is what scientists call the double dissociation, which happens when you can fill in all four cells of 2 by 2 matrix. In our matrix, we have non-language thought process on one side and language ability on the other. If you could only have good language and good thought at the same time, and poor language and poor thought at the same time, that would strongly suggest that language and thought depend on one another and could even be the same thing. But because you can have one without the other, this means that they are at least partially separate and are not the same thing. Thus, the weaker version of Western speech is thought hypothesis that inner monologue and thinking are the same is falsified as well. As we can see from the presentation, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis revolves around the idea that language has power and can control how you see the world. Language is a guide to your reality, structuring your thoughts. It provides the framework for which you make sense of the world. The term Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is considered a misnomer by linguists for several reasons. Edward Sapir and Benjamin Lee Whorf never co-authored any works, and never stated their ideas in terms of a hypothesis. The distinction between a weak and a strong version of this hypothesis is also a later development. Sapir and Whorf never set up such a dichotomy, although often their writings and their view of this relativity principle are based in the stronger or weaker term. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis has two types. First is linguistic relativity. Linguistic relativity is people who speak different languages perceive and think about the world quite differently from one another. And the second one is linguistic determinism. Linguistic determinism is the language we use to some extent determines the way in which we feel and think about the world around us. This version is generally agreed to be false by modern linguists. So that's all my presentation today. Hope you all stay healthy always. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.